Hello and welcome to Golden Chat, where we provide straight talk. Each week, we deliver the best insights on assisted living facility. I'm your host, Stella, and with your co-host, Lana and Pedro.
Good morning.
Hey, how are
Hey,
you?
good, I'm good, I'm good. How are you today?
Good, good.
I'm
Excited about our topics.
Yes.
fantastic.
So, Pedro, tell me, how did you become an assisted living facility operator? How did you get into that industry?
Well, my background led me to this because working with the state, I had an opportunity to do a lot of surveys in assisted living facilities. When I became a caregiver and trying to find a suitable assisted living facility for a family member, became challenging in the aspects of the finances. And of course, for my family, we are Hispanic descent. In this case, it was my dad. So my dad spoke, he was bilingual. However, as he aged, there was something, I don't know exactly what occurred, but he would only speak Spanish. So couldn't really find an assisted living facility that would cater to his needs in the aspects of the language barrier and of course the foods that he was accustomed to eating, which at the end led me to researching what was needed to start an assisted living facility. And 12 years later, here we are.
Very nice, very nice. So you started with a need. So Lana, let's quickly see how did you get into that market yourself?
Well, it's interesting because I have a couple of certifications and licensures. I'm a registered nurse for the state of Florida, and I also am a real estate agent. So, being in both those fields my entire life, juggling those two, when I finally became a psychiatric RN case manager traveling to assisted living facilities, to the small and the large facilities, I decided that it was time for me to jumpstart my next career and my next journey. So, once I learned the business in the assisted living facility and found out how to become an administrator, then I started looking for property. And then my investors were my parents. So I went with them with my vision, talked about what I wanted and the type of facility that I wanted to create. So we did that as a joint venture, and because of my nursing background and the real estate background, it was pretty easy for us because we kind of knew what to look for. And we went for the residential style facility, and so that's what jump started my business.
That's an interesting start as well. You mentioned something about residential style. Let's talk about that before we get into the financing. So, residential style, can you explain quickly the difference between the residential style facility and more institutional style facility?
Well, and I'm sure Pedro can agree, the residential style facility is going to be your home-like environment. Even though we all hold multiple, we can have different licensures, but most of your facilities have a standard license, maybe with an LNS or something that's a specialty on the side for memory unit. But the smaller facilities hold a standard license. And with the small facility, you provide that home-like environment. You don't do your meals are more like buffet styles, home style cooked food. So at my facility, we do fresh fruit, fresh vegetables every week. We include our residents because we are small in daily planning of our events, so it allows them to feel more included. And because it is a home-like environment, they become a close-knit family. And I like to say they become like the Golden Girls, the favorite show, because my 6 women they all love each other, and it's just a close-knit family. So the level of care is also, I think, much higher. And I like to brag on that because we know everything that our residents are doing. If they go to the room and they're lying down for 10 minutes, we're knocking on the door to make sure they're okay. So to me, that home-like environment is small, but it also provides a higher level of care.
Let's hear your point of view, Pedro, about
I
that.
would, she hit some key points, and I would have to agree with her. However, when we look at the aspects of supervision, number one reason why individuals need to go to an assisted living, I'd like to say that in a residential community, you're going to find that the staff ratio is more conducive. You're going to see that the care individual treatment plans is kind of how I reference it, but because each person has a different need, and you'll be able to cater to that when you're in an environment that's smaller because the numbers are less. I'm not saying that a large facility is not capable. I'm just saying that the staff ratio, the numbers never lie, is what an accountant told me. So when we look at that, the ratio is going to tell the tale, and it's a 1 to 5. So when you're looking at a 5-bed, it's a one caregiver to 5 clients, and then as you go up, the ratio increases, staff to client.
Got it. So I'm just going to go back a little bit just to explain to our listeners who are not familiar with assisted living facilities. So basically, what we're talking about is residential style, where it could be a home, a single family home, or it could be a bigger home. And then you could have they still consider 24 residents to be residential and above 24, or it could be 6 to 14, depending on what type of facility it is.
Right.
It looks like a home from the outside, and then from the inside, people are living there, seniors, and most of them are, I would say, average. What's the average age of your resident?
59 and older.
59 and older.
Mm-hmm. And mine range from 65 to 85 right now. So
okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the age range. You have like seniors living in it permanently, and they have a caregiver, somebody that's on your team taking care of them to help them with their. So what does a caregiver do on a daily basis?
Well, there's a lot to take in, but a caregiver's day starts off with the preparation of breakfast, assisting individuals who, based on the treatment plan, there are individuals that don't need assistance in waking up in the morning, and then there are those that will. So with that being said, that's what caregivers will begin their day with, assisting individuals with the activities of daily living and preparing to get up and be ready for breakfast. Then after that, it'll start with breakfast activities, medication administration, documentation, of course, and then prepping for lunch. And that's all done before 12. So I think we have the Army beat. When they say they can do more by 6, I think that ALF caregivers can get a lot done before 6 a.m.
The thing about a small facility, what I like to tell caregivers that are interested in coming on board, it's like you have a full family. You have a family of 6 here. So you are taking care of a family. You're providing meal preparation. You're cleaning. You're making sure everything's, you clean as needed. Like you said, med assistance. I always tell people, the name is exactly what it is, assistance with daily living. So you are assisting them with your medications. We don't administer. We're not a skilled nursing facility. We assist and observe with medications. We're doing meal preparation. We're doing cleaning. And our caregivers sleep at night. And we want them to sleep at night because we have one staff for those 5 residents. And I always tell my caregivers now, it's just like you just had a baby. If your baby wakes up in the middle of the night in a smaller home, you're going to hear your baby. And so you're going to get up and you're going to check, just make sure they're okay. And then you're probably going to go right back to bed. And that's the feeling, is that this is your baby. You are taking care of a big family household, and you're providing ongoing activities.
Yeah, I like the way you put it. Now, we understand the residents, we understand the caregiver. Let's talk about you as a business owner and the operator. What do you do, and what does your day, a typical day, could look like?
Well, there's a number of administrative and operational things that need to be done at an assisted living, regardless of the size. The documentation, making sure that the documentations are adhered to, making sure that we're always in compliance for Agency for Healthcare Administration surveys, training that needs to be done, making sure that any supplies that are needed are ordered and provided for, ensuring the cleanliness and the hygiene of the facility so that when visitors are coming in, not just for the visitors, but for the residents, but also for family and visitors that come in, that, you know, we're projecting, you know, a safe, clean environment. So, and that's just to name a few things that I'm just to name a few things. And this is things that I'm saying that have to be done probably by noon. So each facility runs dramatically different based on the number and based on the organization, the organizational style of the administrator. But they all the facilities have to adhere to ACA at the end of the day, and that's the licensing agency.
Mm-hmm. So Pedro just hit it on the nail. There's so much that goes into this operation. As a certified administrator, you have to abide by the rules and regulations of ACA. So it's ongoing to keep your facility in compliance. Another thing with me, because I am a registered nurse, then, you know, I can, you know, have that communication with doctors. If I have issues, I can write orders, you know, give verbal orders, telephone orders. So it's also an extra hat that I wear. So, I mean, because, you know, being an administrator and operator and also a nurse, those are multiple hats that I wear. And it's constantly just trying to stay in compliance and oversee the health and wellness of your residents.
I get that. Let's talk about financing right now. So when you guys started your first facilities or second facility, where did you find, how did you go about financing all that?
Well, I ultimately had to cash out my 401k to really start. I didn't anticipate the start amount. I did have an opportunity to speak to some owner operators. There were a lot. Everyone was very tight-lipped at the time and didn't necessarily want to share information. I'm not sure why. However, you know, in researching and finding out things that you needed, you know, you have to do it in phases. So the financial obligation is going to be different if you're on a blank slate versus having a building already. So if you have a building and you're looking at then the aspects of preparing the building, you know, that number is going to look quite different from an individual who's, you know, saying, hey, I'd like to do this and doesn't have a building, is just starting from scratch. So in my case, I looked at, it was somewhere around 80,000 to start.
Basically, in your case, you bought the building and then you started your operation in it as well.
Right. Well, in my case, I owned the building, and in owning the building, and what I was able to do was I was able to convert the building. I had to modify the building. I had to knock down walls and make it and prepare it to go from a residential home to a residential facility. And that's the key. Because though we look like a residential home from the outside, the interior is we are a residential facility prepared inside, ADA ready and compliant.
So before we get to Lena and get her point of view, just on this quick note, can you explain what is the difference in terms of the building and the changes you make to make it from a single family home to an assisted living facility? Like,
right. There's going to be some county sanctions that are going to have to take place. So you have the county and fire marshal that's going to do an inspection. However, just to give you an example of the physical plant, was the adjustment of doors for one. Just ensuring that the doors were wider. We had to get into compliance to make sure that all room doors were solid core doors. You had to have a smoke detector that was hardwired, and in some county cases, you also had to have the sprinkler system that was monitored. So you had to incur that cost. You have to ensure that it's not really conducive to have carpeting in a facility. So you would have to take out carpet and decide between tile or hardwood floor, whichever is more cost effective. And of course, you know, just getting the cosmetics of the facility done. The ADA portions, of course, is making sure that the grab bars, wheelchairs can fit in all areas. So that's kind of when you would have to make the physical plant modifications to the building itself. And again, it's about assistance in an assisted living piece. So you want to make accommodations so that you can keep everyone independent as long as possible, promoting their dignity and lifespan. So it's not the aspects of individuals who need full assistance. This is a setup for individuals who need assistance.
Got it.
You agree, Lana?
I totally agree. Yes, that was I mean, you hit almost every single point of what we call the plant standards of what's required for the residential style assisted living facilities. Mine, journey was a little bit different because, working in the industry as a psych nurse in case management and traveling to all these large and small facilities, seeing residents for, depression and anxiety and so forth. I knew that first year that I wanted to open my own facility. So financially, I started planning for that. We would have meetings. I had meetings with my mom and stepfather about what it would take to invest in that dream that I had. And it took me about 3 years to save. So once we knew I was ready and they were ready, we discussed, what our expectations were. And then we found that perfect location that we thought was very central to not only people in the community, but hospitals. And, then we actually bought that home and then did our conversions after we purchased the home.
Right.
Okay. So, and we're going to have the occasion to talk more about the financing and how to operate with other people later. But for today, I think you guys entered the question so that our listeners can understand who you are and what we can provide to them as far as talking about assisted living facilities.
And you ask a lot of good questions, Stella. So I thank you. You really allowed us to open up and talk about what is truly important in this assisted living facility homes that we actually run. So, but in GoToChat, we are going to address 3 key points next week on investors and operators and what we should know before partnering.
On the next episode, you'll find everything we talked about today in our website, Easier Living for You, and that will be the number 4, easierlivingforyou.com, where you can subscribe to the podcast so you'll never miss a show.
Thank you for today and see you soon.
Thank you, Stella. And thanks, Pedro.
Thanks. See you next week.
Next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.